to Beyond the Ordinary. I'm Nigel, and today I'm going to be reviewing the book Peace Talks by Jim Butcher. This is the 16th book in the Dresden Files series, and it's not a good starting place. If you have not read most of the other books, you will not know where you are within this book. The concept of this particular book is that the various supernatural entities who are at war with each other are going to get together and have a talk to try and settle their differences. And because Dresden is one of the policemen of the wizarding world, he will be part of the people who are there to keep the peace at the peace talks for the wizards. Although you learn very early on that the wizards are also out to try and get him, as are various other people. The first thing I'd say about this book is that it starts very much like most of the Dresden books, in that the things that are going to be the major issues of the book are piled onto Dresden very early on. He's told that there's lots of people out to get him for one reason or another, and then various things keep happening to make his life harder and harder still. This is very much Jim Butcher's modus operandi in this particular series. Dresden never gets an easy break, and that's quite good, apart from it starts to get a little bit mechanical. So I started this book and I thought, yeah, it's a bit formulaic at the moment. However, I would not say that the book particularly sticks to the formula. Yes, they do pile the pressure on right at the start, but it doesn't carry on in the same way the other books tend to have. And the things that are noticeable in a Dresden book are not so noticeable now. There's not much in the way of wisecracking. He's getting together with many of his common allies doesn't happen so much. In fact, that the ones that he does get together with are a necessity rather than anything else. So you do see Ramirez, who is and Chandler, who are his two wizard friends, and McCoy, who is his grandfather. You do see the Carpenters, both in the form of the dad and the daughter being Molly, also known as the Lady of Winter, and that's really about it. You also get to see the Knights of the Sword in the form of Butters and Sanya, but there isn't that much called on other people. Also, you don't see Harry doing much in the way of preparation. You don't see much of the way of thinking about things from Harry. You don't see much of the way of him getting kicked around a lot. There's a little bit, but hardly any compared to most of the other books. I suppose you could say you could get your big fight scenes, but I don't think that they're as big in a lot of ways as they are in the other books. What's more, Harry acts much more maturely in these books. He acts like he has grown up quite a lot. There's his interactions with his daughters, I suppose you could say. There is the way he manages to refrain from making remarks which will hurt his cause. And there is his way he talks to his brother. All of these are a much more mature Harry. So I would say that in some ways the books are better than a lot of them, and in some ways this book is not as good. The other thing I'd say about this book is it doesn't feel like a complete book. It feels like 2/3 of a book, maybe less than that even. And this may be because the book that is being released later in the year is meant to be the other half of the book, and rather than making it into one whole large book, he's made it into 2 books. But I think that shortchanges the readers a bit. You pay it out twice as much, and you've been waiting I mean, this book is 5 years since the last book, and it doesn't feel like 5 years worth of writing went into this book. It feels like it was written, and then it feels like, okay, I'll write the rest of it and turn it into a second book. And it's lacking some things. It is not the strongest book in the whole of the Dresden Files, by a long way. You learn a little bit of the Harry and the universe. You don't meet much in the way of new characters. You don't have much in the way of scenery, because it's only basically looking at Chicago. And there are parts of the story that are introduced which are then left hanging. Like, for example, his interaction with the police force. He started, or his and Karen's interaction with the police force, I should say, it started. They're going to be looking into Harry and Karen and how they behaved in a previous book, but it's not followed through. Why is that storyline left hanging? It's because it's meant for the next book. Yet the whole book doesn't feel like a whole book. It feels quite short. It feels lacking. And as such, I think you can't rate it particularly highly. You feel like you should be getting more. Yes, it's a good Jim Butcher book, so you can't say it's a rubbish book. The characterizations are good. The plotting is reasonable. I think I'd rate this book about a 7 out of 10. And most Harry Dresden books I would rate higher than that. I think it's one of the weakest, and that's because I think it's not really a whole book. It's a half a book at most. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you noticed, but I am wearing my new Beyond the Ordinary t-shirt, which is now available, and if you want to get it, the details can be found in the description.